Did you know that by the time most people are diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, they've already lost 60 to 80% of the dopamine-producing cells in their brain? Parkinson's doesn't start when you notice tremors. It begins years, sometimes even decades, before the obvious symptoms appear. But here's the good news. If you catch the early signs, you may be able to slow the progression of the disease, protect your brain, and improve your quality of life. Today, we're covering 10 early warning signs of Parkinson's disease that you should never ignore. Some of these might surprise you because they have nothing to do with movement or tremors. Make sure you watch until the end, because number 10 is one of the most overlooked yet critical warning signs. Sign number 1, loss of smell. One of the earliest and most unusual signs of Parkinson's disease is losing your sense of smell. You might find that your favorite foods don't have the same aroma, or that you can't smell things like coffee, flowers, or even strong odors like gasoline. This happens because Parkinson's starts in the olfactory bulb, the part of your brain that processes smell, long before it affects movement. Research shows that up to 90% of people with Parkinson's experience smell loss years before any other symptoms appear. If you've noticed that your ability to smell has gradually declined, and there's no explanation, like allergies or a sinus infection, it could be a red flag. Sign number 2, small, cramped handwriting. Have you noticed that your handwriting is getting smaller or more cramped than before? This condition, called micrographia, is another early warning sign of Parkinson's. People with Parkinson's often write letters that are much smaller and more crowded together, and they may struggle to control their pen or write in a straight line. This happens because the brain's ability to control fine motor movements becomes impaired, even in the very early stages. If your handwriting has changed significantly over time and it feels harder to write, don't ignore it, especially if you notice other symptoms on this list. Sign number 3, stiffness or slow movement. One of the biggest signs of early Parkinson's is unexplained stiffness or slowness in movement. You might feel like your arms or legs are harder to move, or that it takes you longer to do simple tasks like buttoning a shirt or getting out of bed. This happens because Parkinson's affects dopamine levels in the brain, which control movement. Without enough dopamine, your muscles don't respond as quickly, and you might feel stiff even if you haven't exercised. If you feel like your movements have become slower, stiffer, or less fluid, take note of when it happens and whether it's getting worse over time. Sign number 4. Facial masking or reduced facial expressions. Have people told you that you look serious or expressionless even when you feel fine? This is known as facial masking, and it's a common early symptom of Parkinson's. People with Parkinson's often experience reduced facial movement, which can make them appear uninterested, sad, or unengaged, even when they don't feel that way. This happens because Parkinson's affects muscle control, including the tiny muscles in the face that help you show emotion. If you notice that your face feels stiff, or people keep asking why you look serious, it might be an early sign of something more. Sign number 5, tremors or shaking in one hand. Tremors are the most well-known symptom of Parkinson's, but they often start very small, usually in one hand or a single finger. You might notice a slight twitching when your hand is resting, but it stops when you move. This happens because Parkinson's disrupts communication between the brain and the muscles, causing involuntary shaking. The key difference between a Parkinson's tremor and normal shakiness from stress or caffeine is that a Parkinson's tremor usually happens when you're at rest, not when you're using your hand. If you notice a tremor that's persistent and only in one hand, don't ignore it. It could be an early sign. Sign number 6, trouble sleeping or acting out dreams. We all toss and turn in our sleep sometimes, but people with early Parkinson's often experience a very specific type of sleep problem. They act out their dreams. This means they might kick, punch, talk, or even scream while asleep, sometimes so aggressively that they wake themselves or their partner up. This happens because Parkinson's affects the brain's ability to control muscle movement during sleep, leading to REM sleep behavior disorder, a condition that can appear years before other Parkinson's symptoms. If you or your partner has noticed unusual movement during sleep, especially if it's frequent, pay attention to other signs on this list. Sign number 7, soft or low voice. Has your voice become softer over time? Are people asking you to repeat yourself more often because they can't hear you? A weaker, softer voice, sometimes called hypophonia, is another early sign of Parkinson's? This happens because Parkinson's affects the muscles that control speech, making it harder to project your voice. Some people also experience a monotone voice, meaning their speech becomes less expressive. If your voice has changed and you find it harder to speak loudly or clearly, it might be worth getting checked out. Sign number 8. Dizziness or feeling lightheaded. Frequent dizziness or feeling like you're about to faint can be a sign of early Parkinson's. This is because Parkinson's affects the autonomic nervous system, which controls blood pressure regulation. When you stand up, your blood pressure should automatically adjust to keep blood flowing to your brain. But with Parkinson's, this system doesn't work as well, leading to sudden drops in blood pressure and dizziness. If you feel lightheaded when standing up, especially on a regular basis, it could be an early warning sign. Sign number 9. Sudden changes in mood or depression. Depression and anxiety can appear years before Parkinson's movement symptoms begin. In fact, researchers believe that Parkinson's might start in the gut and affect mood-related brain chemicals long before tremors appear. If you've been feeling unusually anxious, depressed, or withdrawn, and there's no clear reason for it, this could be an early warning sign of Parkinson's. Sign number 10. Stooped posture or trouble walking. Have you noticed that your posture is changing or that you're walking differently? Parkinson's can cause stiffness in the spine and neck, making people lean forward slightly when they walk. It can also make your steps smaller and shuffling, almost like your feet are sticking to the floor. People with early Parkinson's often lose the natural arm swing while walking and feel like they're not as balanced as they used to be. If your posture has changed or you feel like walking is harder than it should be, don't ignore it. What you can do now. If you've noticed any of these symptoms, especially more than one, talk to a doctor. Parkinson's is progressive, meaning it gets worse over time, but early detection is key. There is no cure yet, but lifestyle changes, medication, and certain therapies can help slow progression and improve quality of life. Have you or someone you know experienced any of these early signs? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on more science-backed health tips. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.